Hello, I can hear you.
There you are,
Hello.
Sam Cawthorn. We have not seen each other in a very long time.
It has been a while. It has been a long time.
You're looking good. I first met you at the event we did in Park City, Utah, long time ago. You were just starting out doing professional speaking.
Yeah.
You've written books. You were named top entrepreneur in Australia. You're getting knighted. I don't even know. You got a lot of stuff going on. Can you, for people who don't know you, can you give like the 30-second kind of story background, and then let's dive into like this is the last session in a 4-day event. I want you to wrap it up and just have us feeling good.
Yeah, great. So I'm half Scottish, half Indian, born in Tasmania, the little island underneath mainland Australia, and I'm an ordinary bloke. And in the prime of my life, when I was around 26 years old, married, 3 kids, etc., I was driving along and I fell asleep at the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
The police said it was a 206 kilometre, which is around 120 mile an hour, head-on collision with a semi-trailer truck.
Wow.
I was pronounced dead at the scene. I lost my arm and I also wrecked my leg. So I now live with a permanent disability. And I suppose through that crisis, through that car accident, everything shifted, everything changed, and everyone then wanted to hear my story. So I went out and shared my story in schools, and then I started sharing my story in corporate. And now for the last 12 years, I've been a professional storyteller, a keynote speaker. And around 5 years ago, I then started our organization, our business, which is now teaching other people how to share their story more powerfully.
So maybe we focus on that. So we have a lot of people who are on here who are entrepreneurs, want to be entrepreneurs. What are some 1 or 2 or 3 big things we could do to help share our story better?
Yeah, look, really good point. Look, the bottom line is this, is that our story is our number 1 trump card, which then means that, whatever area of expertise that you have, whatever skill set that you've got, I can find better online right now for free. So we need to realize that our skill set, our area of expertise is not our number 1 trump card. Our number 1 trump card is our story. No one on the planet has our story. And when we learn how to share our story in a really powerful way, we can actually then make more of a difference in the world. I believe as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we are in the business of emotion. And when we learn how to evoke the emotion in the listener, we can actually influence them in a more powerful way. So ultimately, yes, we need to then learn how can we share these stories in a really powerful way, in a short, sharp way, and then evoke the emotion into the listener so we can then create a decision or influence them in a really powerful way. So, yeah, I think with story, the number 1 key area here is all about how to evoke emotion. And so we do that in a number of different ways. My latest book is called Story Showing, How to Stand Out from the Storytellers. And it's really this whole notion that we are sick and tired of people telling us what to do. And, this age-old saying of being a storyteller, telling is very head-to-head. Showing, when I show you something, it's now more heart-to-heart. I'm now considering how this lands for you as the listener. So there's a whole heap of elements there around really showing the journey to the listener rather than just telling them something.
Yeah. So showing them rather than just telling them. But how do we tap in? Obviously, your story is unbelievable, and what you had to go through. For someone else listening, say, okay, well, my story obviously isn't that dramatic. It's I lost 20 pounds, or I was depressed and divorced, and I came back. Is it a question of just whatever story we have? How do we find that and tap into that emotional component?
Yeah, it's a really good point. You know what we do? We compare. We compare our stories to other people's stories, and we think their story is better than my story.
Right.
One of my students, his name is Paul, and he was diving in Sydney Harbour. And this guy, Paul, he had his arm and his leg bitten off by a shark. Now if you think about it, that's
how do you one up that one? Yeah.
Exactly right. I mean, that's a cooler story than mine. I've just had a car accident. I've just lost an arm in a car accident. But what we do compare. And one thing I've found when it does come to story is that there's two components to story. One is our content, what we say, and the other is our method, how we say it. Now, when we need to realize that our content, what we say, is only 20 to 30% of the influence and impact to the listener, which then means that our methodology, how we say it, is up to 80% of the influence and impact to the listener. So when it comes to our story, don't compare our story to other people's stories. You know, one of my mates, his name is Dr. Phil Pringle, and he can turn an everyday journey down to the local supermarket and back to an edge-of-the-seat thriller.
And there I was. In the dairy aisle.
Because he's learned how to master his method. So our story is not about the content. It's about the method. You know, there's a, you know, this guy, Paul, when he first came to us and he had his shark attack, right? He started sharing his story, and after about 2 minutes, the majority of the audience, they were bored because he was a boring method speaker. Yes, he had the content, but he didn't have the method. So when we learn the method of the story, we can turn any boring story into an edge-of-the-seat thriller. And you know what? The greatest way to learn how to share your story more powerfully is to get feedback. Because the bottom line is this: communication is the number one skill set on the planet. We all know that, right? We all know that if we learn how to communicate better, we can have better income, we can have better relationships, even better health. We all know this, yeah? Yet when was the last time we actually got feedback on our gestures, on our tonality, on our facial expression, on our eye contact, on our fingers, our wrist, our elbows? So, you know, and to be quite honest, everyone out there wants to give you feedback. We know that, you know, like your mum would love to give you feedback. But when we get quality feedback, we can upgrade this number one skill on the planet, keep people's attention for a longer period of time, thus make more of a difference in the world, make more money, and ultimately influence other people.
Well, I've always said, even when I saw you speak at our Sang event years ago, you're one of the best speakers. And everyone, I mean, comment there, and if you're watching Sam live, you just like jump through the screen. You're so enthusiastic. Give me something give me one tip, one technique, something to get ourselves, is it we get motivated? Or something we could do to become a more effective speaker, storyteller? Because you're just so freaking good.
All right, so let me give you a real key essence when it does come to story showing, yeah? And so we're going to be talking more about the method, not the content, because the content's the easy part.
Yeah.
It's the method that we need to know. And unfortunately, we're going to have to start unlearning some things. You know, we've always been taught that we have to look at the audience with our eyes, yeah? So they say our eyes is the window to the soul. It is very much so true. And the majority of our certainty and our confidence comes from our eyes. And we know this, you know, up to 85% of our certainty comes from our eyes. And when the world is so uncertain in right now, you know, we're seeing unprecedented change, and what they want from us as entrepreneurs, as business owners, what they want from us is certainty, and certainty comes from our eyes, yeah? So when we are on stage, when we are telling them, you know, research or data or facts, when we're telling them that our key threat or whatever, that's when we look in the eyes of the audience. However, when we are showing them elements of the story, we don't look at the audience with our eyes. We need to look inside the story. I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, if I am sharing the story about my car accident, I'm going to look at elements in the story. So I'm going to say, you know, guys, there was this one time when I was driving along, and as I was driving along, I hit this truck, and it was a 206-kilometer head-on collision. So I'm going to look at elements in the story, because now I'm coming across with more authenticity. And ultimately, with more bullshit-meters in the world than any other time in history, there's more skeptics out there.
Right.
What we're searching for is people that are pulling the wool over our eyes. And one of the greatest ways to influence our audience is by being vulnerable. Vulnerability comes from the Latin word vulnerabilis, which means an open wound. The greatest way to be vulnerable is that when we are sharing the story is by going back to the scene and looking at the parts in the scene. Let's say, there was a truck here, or there was a hospital here, or there was my friend here, or there was my mum here. And we're going to look at mum rather than look at the audience. We're going to look at the truck rather than look at the audience. We're going to look at this moment so we're showing them rather than telling them. Right. Telling them, I'm looking at you. Showing them, I'm actually looking at this within the scene of the story. It's one of the greatest ways that we can influence the audience to show our authenticity and vulnerability within the story.
This is I love that technique. And what I'd like to do, because we have just a couple minutes left. Last day, you're the cleanup hitter. Although you're Australian, you probably don't know what cleanup hitter means. That's a baseball reference.
All right.
I don't know what the hell you guys play in Australia. Australian rules football.
Yes.
So you're bringing home, and I appreciate you being on here, because I think are you in Singapore now? What is it, like 3 a.m. or some crazy?
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. So you're bringing it home for us. You, in life or as entrepreneurs, we are going to face roadblocks. We're going to face setbacks. You were obviously through something really traumatic where you lost your arm, the permanent disability in your leg. You died for a certain amount of time, and you bounced back. Give us, as this is going to be the last talk of this event, give us one thing to think about, one thing we can do, something powerful that next time we face resistance, face a setback, we too can bounce back.
Yeah, great. The word decision comes from the Latin word decidere. Incision. Cision means to cut. And the word decide, suicide, pesticide, means to kill. So the word decision means to cut off and kill. My point being is this. It is our decision, not our condition, that determines who we are. So no matter what type of condition that we might be in, I have phantom pain. Every single day I live with pain. If I close my eyes, I can still feel each of my fingers, my wrist, and my elbow, but it's no longer there. My leg doesn't bend. So whatever, my condition is very physical, but your condition could be financial, could be relationship, could be crisis, could be burden. But whatever condition that you're in, it is our decision, not our condition, that determines who we are. It's now time to cut off and kill all the complaints, all the worries. It's now time to cut off and kill all the things that should not be in your life. Because when we start realizing that it is our decision, not our condition, I can guarantee our life will be 10 times better.
There is nothing else I can say. There's no better way to wrap everything up than with that. It is our decision. And you're already saying, wow, this is powerful. Bravo, word. Sam, and for those of you who don't know Sam, I told you he is one of the best speakers, motivators I've ever met in my life. What's the best way people can learn more about you, Sam?
Yeah, look, just go on to any social media. Just type in Sam Cawthorn or my business, which is Speakers Institute. We're in 5 countries and we teach people how to share stories. Just go on to any social media, Speakers Institute or Sam Cawthorn.
And it's Cawthorn. Ladies and gentlemen, Sam, go. So good seeing you again, and keep on changing lives, my friend.
Yeah, thanks again, Ryan. Good to talk.
Thanks, Sam. All right.